If you didn't know, the 90s were a golden age for firearms, a time when gun makers pushed boundaries with innovation, raw firepower, and designs that still hold up today. Hollywood had an obsession with the Desert Eagle, the Barrett M82, and a lot of other guns. That decade gave us some of the most legendary weapons ever made, but which ones truly defined the era, and what made them so groundbreaking? Well, in this video, we'll talk about the top 10 guns that dominated the 90s, a decade that gave us grunge music, the golden age of hip-hop, and the birth of the internet. It was a time when flannel shirts were everywhere, MTV still played music, and dial-up connections tested everyone's patience. But while culture was changing fast, the firearms world was also making waves with some of the most iconic and influential guns ever made. So, without further ado, the Heckler & Koch USP. The HK USP made a big splash in the mid-90s and quickly became known for rock-solid reliability and a smart recoil reduction design. It launched as a .40 Smith & Wesson pistol in 1993, then branched into 9mm and .45 ACP to cover a wide range of shooters. Folks often compared it to its larger cousin, the Mark 23, but the USP was more practical for everyday use in law enforcement and civilian life. It earned some serious respect in Europe, where agencies recognized how durable and accurate it could be. And even the German Bundeswehr jumped on board as they designated it the P8. It went through some extreme torture tests, including getting frozen, heated, and blasted with salt fog, and still functioned without missing a beat. Audiences started noticing it in 90s action films like Heat, Clear and Present Danger, and Bad Boys. The Counter-Strike crowd and other gamers also helped put it on the map as the go-to sidearm in the digital world. Ergonomics were a big selling point. The generous controls and comfy grip made it easy to shoot, while the option for either dual action, single action, or double action only trigger setup appealed to different preferences. HK has newer pistols on the market now, but the USP still has a devoted fanbase. It remains one of the few 90s firearms that never seems outdated. FNP90. The FNP90 showed up as a high-tech personal defense weapon that introduced the 5.7 by 28mm cartridge. Military units and special teams liked its compact bullpup design, crazy 50-round top-loading magazine, and ambidextrous controls. The new cartridge was meant to replace the 9mm in many roles, and the P90's armor-piercing abilities were a big part of that plan. Now, there wasn't a complete shift to 5.7mm in NATO, but plenty of specialized units fell in love with this futuristic-looking SMG. Its distinctive design helped it land roles in 90s movies like Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough. The US Secret Service became one of its most notable early adopters, which boosted its public profile. And video games also helped propel it more into pop culture, especially Counter-Strike and GoldenEye 007. The P90's engineering was all about maneuverability, high-volume fire, and the ability to punch through body armor. A variety of special forces around the globe picked it up because it fit great in tight quarters missions. FN later added features like accessory rails and improved sight options, and even though some folks wanted a standard NATO round, that never really happened. Still though, the P90 remains a 90s icon that looks as cutting edge now as it did back then. Benelli M3. Benelli introduced the M3 shotgun during the 90s, and many people appreciated its ability to switch between semi-automatic and pump action. This dual-mode feature allowed it to handle loads ranging from powerful buckshot to low recoil and less lethal rounds, which is also ideal for police and military missions. It was part of Benelli's Super 90 lineup, and the inertia-driven system in semi-auto mode provided quick follow-up shots without needing to rack the action. The M3 built on the success of the earlier M1, but added the pump action option so it could reliably cycle lighter rounds. Departments that used both lethal and non-lethal shells found that incredibly useful. Versions came out with everything from folding stocks to pistol grips, and ghost ring sights made target acquisition faster. Movies like Heat and Eraser put this shotgun in the public eye, showing off its rapid-fire prowess in intense action scenes. Now, plenty of law enforcement and special operations teams continue to trust the M3's ability to adapt to different situations, and that flexibility kept it relevant over time. Benelli's shotguns carry a reputation for reliability, and the M3's knack for switching between semi-auto and pump hasn't lost its appeal. It definitely remains as a memorable 90s-era shotgun that carved out its own corner in tactical use. Jericho 941. The Jericho 941 came from Israeli military industries as a robust metal-framed pistol that took design cues from the CZ75. The early models even offered a 41 Action Express option, though most shooters eventually preferred M9 or 40 Smith & Wesson. Magnum Research marketed it in the US under the name Baby Eagle, and it sometimes popped up with other labels in various import runs. People who carried it appreciated it for its accuracy and reliability in rough conditions, which made sense given its origins in Israel's security environment. Police and military units valued its straightforward maintenance and proven performance, and the pistol's different safety configurations catered to personal preference. Hollywood helped it gain fame, showing it off in films like Under Siege 2 and The Replacement Killers. Its modern lines and association with Israeli firearms design only added to its mystique. Some gamers also recognized it in titles that showcased a wide range of handguns. Over time, the Jericho 941 kept evolving, including polymer-framed versions and rail attachments, but it stayed true to its hardy design. Many gun owners still track down these pistols for collections or personal defense. It's a distinct 90s piece that bridged old-world craftsmanship with the modern era of high-capacity sidearms. Now, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this video. Your support lets us keep creating real content for weapon enthusiasts, homesteaders, preppers, and anyone looking to be prepared. Huge thanks to our subscribers, past, present, and future. Glock 17. The Glock 17 carried serious weight in the 90s, ushering in the polymer pistol era for law enforcement and the civilian market. By then, many agencies were switching from revolvers to semi-autos, and Glock seemed to check every box: high capacity, lightweight, and proven dependability. It didn't have an external safety lever to mess with, which made it simpler to train on, and that design stood up to all sorts of abuse in torture tests. Hollywood quickly noticed. The Glock appeared in blockbuster films such as Heat and True Lies, symbolizing modern firepower. Some lines in movies got kinda silly, like mentioning a Glock 7 made of porcelain, but that only amplified the hype. Reality was much simpler. A polymer frame, a steel slide, and a striker-fired system that made maintenance very straightforward. Cops and federal agents liked the consistent trigger pull and big magazine capacity, and civilians found it just as appealing for self-defense or competition. Glock kept expanding its lineup, but the G17 remained its core model. Even though new generations have come along since, the Gen 3 set a benchmark for durability and user-friendliness. The 90s just wouldn't be the same in gun history without the Glock 17's rise to dominance. Desert Eagle. The Desert Eagle in 50 Action Express is probably one of the most visually unmistakable handguns ever. Magnum Research and Israel Military Industries designed it with a gas piston system that manages the monstrous recoil of the 50 AE. Now, that raw power and unique operation propelled it into legend, even if it wasn't exactly ideal for practical duty use. Its sheer size and weight make it more of a showpiece or a range toy. Hollywood adored it for big screen presence, so it showed up in everything from The Matrix to Snatch. Video games also latched onto the Desert Eagle as the ultimate hand cannon, and it became a favorite among players who wanted over-the-top firepower. Collectors and enthusiasts still line up for a chance to shoot or own one, drawn by its status and engineering. It's not a concealed carry or service option, but it's hard to ignore just how iconic it is. Anytime someone talks about 90s firearms, the 50 AE Desert Eagle is bound to come up as that colossal, flashy pistol that became a cultural icon more than a duty weapon. It's earned a permanent spot in gun lore for those who crave massive energy in a semi-automatic platform. Walther P99. Walther made waves in 1997 with the P99, taking striker-fired technology and marrying it to German engineering. The pistol offered interchangeable backstraps to fit different hand sizes, a fairly new idea back then. It had a distinctive decocker on the top of the slide, so the shooter could safely lower the striker without a traditional hammer. Various trigger systems were also offered, including one with a long first pull that transitioned into a crisp follow-up. Some shooters gravitated towards that system for the control it gave on the first shot. Police and military forces in Europe tested it out as a modern replacement for their earlier Walther designs, and it was solid in those roles. The lightweight polymer frame and well-thought-out ergonomics made it a comfortable sidearm for extended use. James Bond introduced the P99 to mainstream audiences in Tomorrow Never Dies. It also showed up again in subsequent Bond flicks, reinforcing that sleek, high-tech image. Video games latched on too, throwing the P99 into popular franchises to represent a more futuristic approach to sidearms. Even though Walther eventually moved on to other models, the P99 was way ahead of its time in how it handled trigger options and grip customization. It was a pivotal 90s pistol that deserves respect for shaping modern handgun trends. Barrett M82. Ronnie Barrett's big 50 cal rifle shook up the sniper and anti-material world in the 90s. The M82 gave shooters the ability to strike targets well beyond the reach of standard rifles, and the 50 BMG round delivered enough punch to disable vehicles or punch through protective barriers. Its semi-automatic design set it apart from most other long-range options, allowing for faster follow-up shots. The US military began adopting it during the Gulf War. It caught the eye of the Marines and then the Army, who realized what a 50 cal could do against enemy assets. Special ops teams liked having a rifle that could reach out past a mile and deliver serious damage. Other militaries also soon followed suit, turning the M82 into a global phenomenon. Movies showcased its imposing size and power, and gamers often coveted the Barrett in first-person shooters for that one-shot, one-kill thrill. It wasn't just about punching holes in paper at long ranges, it was also used for disposing of explosive ordnance from a safe distance. The rifle's muzzle brake and recoil system made the 50 BMG manageable, though it was never a casual range toy. It remains one of the signature heavy hitters of the 90s, emblematic of the era's push for larger caliber solutions on the battlefield. Steyr TMP. Steyr's TMP broke the mold for submachine guns, as it looked more like a futuristic machine pistol than a classic SMG, and it relied on a polymer frame that kept it light and maneuverable. It fired 9mm ammo from 15 or 30 round magazines, and the high rate of fire could empty those in a heartbeat if the trigger stayed floored. Operators had the choice of running it with or without a stock, though the original version was designed without one. Elite law enforcement teams and a few special forces units adopted it for close quarters work, and it had an integral suppressor mount which made it a prime option for stealthy missions. Pop culture loved its distinctive design. Hollywood used it in thrillers like True Lies, Heat, and Mission Impossible. Gamers recognized it too, especially in various shooter titles that emphasized its compact size and rapid bursts. Brieger and Tomet eventually bought the design and turned it into the MP9 with a folding stock, giving it a second life in modern arsenals. The TMP still has that 90s cool factor and stands as a prime example of forward-thinking design from that era. It never reached mainstream adoption, but it carved out a niche and captured the imagination of many firearm enthusiasts. SIG P228. The Sig Sauer P226 and its compact sibling the P228 found plenty of fans in the 90s, including the US Navy SEALs, who valued the P226's durability in harsh conditions. SIG built these guns as higher capacity evolutions of the P220, and the double-action single-action trigger was known for its smooth pull and reliable reset. They came in 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, and .357 SIG, giving agencies and civilians multiple calibers to pick from. Federal agencies like the FBI and Secret Service adopted SIG pistols, which only boosted their reputation for performance. Hollywood also put them on the big screen with action flicks. The P226 had the full-size presence, but the P228, designated M11 by the US military, was more compact for easier carry. Both featured high-quality machine work on the slide and the frame, and they were praised for accuracy and ergonomics. Many shooters found them more comfortable than polymer competitors, though they weighed more on the belt. That didn't stop law enforcement from appreciating the all-metal reliability. A lot of 90s gun owners still see these SIGs as peak examples of old-school craftsmanship blended with modern capacity. And there you have it. The 90s had no shortage of iconic firearms. These were no ordinary firearms. They were cultural phenomena, showing up in blockbuster films, video games, and military arsenals all around the world. Whether it was the P90's futuristic design or the Benelli M3's dual-action versatility, every gun on this list left its mark. But we'd like to hear from you. Which firearm from the 90s caught your interest the most? Drop a comment down below. Hit like if you enjoyed the video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss a future upload. Thanks for watching, and as always, this is Threat to Survival. Prepare today, thrive tomorrow. Embrace the threat to survival.